Hi, I would like to start by asking the audience a question of who from here has been or has worked remotely even after it stopped being mandatory by the government. Yeah, so it's most of us. We have continued to work remotely, and this shows exactly the trend that the world is having. It's showing that the world is going towards hybrid, where face-to-face is important, and but also remote is accepted. And this is one of the big reasons why the nearshore model is in such a high demand. And I'm here to talk to you a bit on behind the scenes on how do we operate, how do we work in BFRL, and why do we work this way. To talk to you about the mindset that we bring when partnering with our customers, and to also say a bit on what the companies need to do in order to thrive in this fast-changing world that we are at, especially in the last 3 years. So we have been working in Nearshore for more than 10 years. I have been personally since the beginning on that model. And because we were working already on that model, that was one of the reasons that part of our business, Nearshore, the transition with COVID was very smooth, because we continued to do most of our things already in the same way. And I'm trying to change the slide. Oh. Okay, so talking a bit on the adoption of Nearshore, I'd like to share with you some simple facts that show how this change is exactly happening. Right now, there are 3 times more remote jobs in the market and job listings in the market than existed 3 years ago. And this shows that companies are much more willing to work with not just their own employees remotely, but also to hire other companies that work remotely. Second one is about the increase that Nearshore is having. Nearshore in the market, the market of Nearshore is increasing by 11% over the last few years, while offshore, for example, is increasing 4%. This shows that the companies really accept how the partner that they are working with is located in a different place. But on the other hand, they want somebody close enough to them to be able to have that proximity and do other types of work. The last one is, I don't know if you know Google Trends, a website that Google shows to everybody the trends of the searches that they use. If you look that up, Nearshore, the amount of searches done on Nearshore right now is twice what was being done 2 or 3 years ago. And this shows that the market and people are really searching for these kind of topics. So talking now a bit on the cost efficiency of this model that we leverage and that we use, that is a big part, obviously, of using Nearshore. And we've seen on some of our customers, the cost saving, the cost reduction that they had was up to 60%, especially when compared to direct hiring their own people. And they do that while avoiding the HR and legal risks, especially right now, of hiring elsewhere on different places, right? And on the other hand, there are some costs and hidden costs that a lot of times are not even considered, but should be considered from day one. And I'm talking about costs like attrition, like travel costs, like the inflation obviously, that is really important right now in the world, and this year we've seen that inflation is critical. And I'd like to give you some examples of this happening in some of our customers. So we had one customer of ours that asked us to do a transition to an offshore team of 10 persons. So we started doing a transition, and after 6 months, what we realized was from the original team of 10, only one person of the offshore team was still there from the other company. And that obviously had a huge impact because it made the transition go longer, the cost went higher, the delivery speed of the team decreased because the team, not just the transmitting of the knowledge transition, the transmitting, but also the receiving team, both teams were still focused too much on the transition, not really on delivering value to the business. And this had an impact on the amount of work being done. And then on transition, this is a case that it's not recent, so it's not associated with the current inflation rates that we have. But had a customer that had a program of around $100 million per year, and it was a 3-year program. And because inflation was not considered right from the start, and they learned by that, then they realized that two years after, the cost that they were having was 20% higher than what they initially estimated. And obviously, this had a huge impact because they couldn't change team. They didn't want to change team. They didn't want to change much, but they had to reduce basically the scope by 20% because the cost was higher. And this is something that needs to be taken into consideration from the start. The next topic on the model is proximity. That is kind of obvious, but this is not just the physical and geographical proximity, but also cultural proximity that is really important, and we've seen that on a number of projects that we had. And this is very important. The proximity is very important to have, and especially in the area that we work in data, the interaction with the customer is essential to have. There are a lot of interactions going on all the time. It's not something that you can give something to do, and 6 months later you come back. The interaction is essential. So the proximity plays a big role there, because you need frequent and synchronous interactions and lines of communications, and that proximity gives you that. On the other hand, the proximity also gives you the easy face-to-face meetings whenever needed. Because we all know that remote is good, and we've seen that, the world is going towards that, but face-to-face meetings are essential every once in a while for projects to be successful. And on the one hand, you save time with the traveling because you are close. On the other hand, you don't need to deal with so much paperwork when countries are nearby. Usually the travel paperwork is easy, right? So coming to the next one, flexibility and scalability. This one is one that is hard to master from our side, but essential for us to be able to give this to our customers. And we've talked a bit about this in the previous session. That is not easy for us to do this, but it is essential. And why? It is essential for when a customer wants to increase, so new business areas are coming with new business requirements, they want to increase their team almost immediately. And it's difficult for us, but we need to provide that, and we want to provide that. That's something that we always keep in mind. But on the other hand, other times projects come to an end, so you match the demand that is happening, you match it with the cost that you have in reality, right? And on the other hand, the flexibility is also on the expertise that you have on your team. because with such a model, you can change the team if you need. For example, you want to change the tool set that you're working on. And then you can change, and we change the teams whenever needed, or we train the teams. But on the other hand, you imagine that you're working, especially on the commercial side, but then you need some expert on the supply chain side. So that's the model that we work on also gives that advantage to the customer. Moving to the last one, but not the least important, it's expertise. Expertise, it's the expertise that we bring to the table from day one on our projects, on the collaboration we do and the partnership we do with our customers. And we do this first since the beginning of BI for All. It has been at our core since the beginning that we want to be the experts, and that's why we focus really on this area. And so everybody in the company is continuously training and being certified by vendors or by different institutes to be able to show that expertise. That is something that we bring from day one. And then we also have an area of the company dealing about the knowledge and innovation of the company. And it's an internal team that we have that is providing value to the customer and to our teams. And this team is responsible for a number of things. First one is to train people on projects. So people might be working and have the expertise on a certain thing, and they need to be trained because we don't want to change the team because they have the expertise of the business demands, the business requirements already. We don't want to change the team. We want to reskill them into a different tool set. So they come in and do that. But also, sometimes we want to train people even before the project is starting. And this is the team that does that. On the other hand, this team is a team where the specialists, the architects, and the business experts on the different domains are sitting as well. And that we can call to a project whenever needed. So this is very, very essential to bring that expertise whenever that makes sense to a project. Then the last part that this team also contributes is this team is always 6 steps ahead of the project teams and a lot of times of the customer, because they are always and continuously learning about new things. And this is essential whenever a customer, for example, wants a change and wants to understand what kind of things exist more and to do some brainstorming. So this team is a team that is responsible to do assessments, to do data strategy roadmaps, and to do all those different conversations on trends that might be worth for a customer. So this shows you a bit how we operate and why do we use this model. But being very analytical and work as we work on the data area and we're very analytical, it's natural to us that we are very data-driven. And we've heard this in a number of sessions already today. And we apply this and we have this mindset not just in our projects, but also in our internal strategy as well. And I'd like to share a bit with you how we do that in our expansion plan of BI for All. So we understood that with all the demand coming from the market, on the one hand. On the other hand, all the projects, the customers that we have already been working for a number of years internationally, there was just one piece that was missing, like our expansion, or which locations or where should we go, because we have been based mostly from Portugal. Where should we go? Where should we go next? What locations would make sense for us to be able to move to a different location? And so we started by doing this by setting up first a list of countries, we came to a list of 21 countries on the European continent, plus Turkey, countries that have more than 1 million inhabitants. And then we had to consider the armed conflict that is currently ongoing in Europe, and we had to exclude the countries that are involved in the armed conflict for now. And then we wanted to set up a model that was very detailed on one side, but on the other side, that is easy to understand and easy to visualize the results. So we started by then creating 7 pillars, like the political one, economical one, hiring. This is the top level where you see your data aggregated to just these 7 pillars. Then you go to 30 different themes, and this is the hierarchy that was created. And themes are things like IT infrastructure quality, like broadband velocity is essential for the work that we do. The ease of doing business, the political stability of that country, the IT resourcing offer versus demand of that country, number of partners. And then we go down to the last one, that is the 71 metrics. 71 metrics that we sourced from places like Eurostat, like Eurobank, OECD. And then we got to a place where we have all this bunch of data laying around to classify all these different countries, and we needed to make a decision. But we look at the metrics and we see that some metrics are measured 0 to 100%. Other metrics are -10 to 20. On some metrics, more is good. On other metrics, less is good. So we had to, as a first step, to normalize all of this to make sure that they were comparable between them, right? And then the last step we did in order to make this presentable and to get us to some conclusions was because not all these pillars, themes, and metrics are equally important, right? We had to weight them. We had to attribute weight to each of them based on our experience of the model that we have and the things that we value most. Let's weight this more and that less. So in the end, you see that we got to a list, and the report in the end, obviously in Power BI, a list of countries classified against these metric themes and pillars, and we got to our conclusion based on this. It was all based on the data that we got, and we had the simple explanation for everything that we were doing. So you see that this is the mindset that we bring. And moving to the next one, we see, you might have seen this on our website, or you might have heard this morning even already, or even next to our logo. And this, the last part, turning data into insights, that is there because that's the core. That's the core of us. That's, if I would have to sum up exactly what we do, this is it. Turning data into insights. And we do this, and to explain you a bit more on how do we do this, on how do we think and what do we bring, what kind of mindset, we have a structure that we represent in the form of a pyramid that has 4 layers and 2 areas. The bottom layer is data, and we have heard this today. We see that even here the power of data, but the data here it's just raw data. It's data that you get from everywhere. You've heard that data is the oil of the 21st century, and we have huge amount of data. In the last 2 years, that the same amount of data was generated as all the years before, and probably the next 2 years will be exactly the same. So this is just data with no meaning at this level, right? And to explain also the two different areas that we have the operational area first, where the data engineers mostly work on. The technical expertise on this layer is essential, is critical. You need to have a lot of technical expertise. But on this layer, you are looking especially at the past. What happened? And then you go to the strategic one that has the two top players. On this one, you start to be looking more at the present, and especially on the future, and how to predict and how to make decisions based on what you have. This is the area where the data scientists and the analysts especially work on. This is the area where business expertise is critical, and that's why in our business the technical expertise and the business expertise need to come together in order to get from data into insights. So we got all the data, and we move the next one to the next layer, to information. Information is when you answer the what. You've gathered all the parts, and you connect all the parts that you've gathered. And this is the layer where you process the data, you cleanse the data, and you bring that meaning. And this is the layer, and the first layer, where you can start to analyze, visualize, and report on something. And this is very dangerous, because a lot of companies feel that they should stop here, because they can already report on something, but you are actually just reporting on what happened, and you don't want to report just on what happened. So from here, you need to understand and to answer the how. How did this happen? How the what from information happened? And once you start to answer this, you start to uncover hidden relationships between the information that you had that you didn't think that was there. And once you know the how, and you understand, and you've created basically a whole of all these different parts. There's a whole because all the things are a lot of times connected between them. You want to get to the insights. And the insights is once you pick up the knowledge that you got, you want to make decisions based on the knowledge and based on what happened and how did it happen, so that I can predict what might happen in the future. And this is how we make our decisions based on the data that we got from the initial layer. And to give a simple example, I'll talk about the game of poker. For example, on poker, the data it's just the suits, the cards, the bets, the players that exist. Just that list of things. And then you get to the information part and you answer the what. What cards do I have in my hand? What cards are on the table? What happened on previous games? And what bets are on the table? And then when you go to knowledge, you start to identifying what are the odds of a card being on my opponent's hand. what are the odds of the next card on the table be a certain card, right? And then the insight, what's the insight? The insight is when you answer the question based on the how, based on the odds that you've identified. What should I do next? Should I raise? Should I hold or should I fold? Right? You answer the question and you've identified what's your next step based on the action, based on all the different things that happened in the past, based on the trend of specific component playing in a certain way. And this is very important. This is the main thing I would like to share with you, this model, because once we become aware of this is the time that when we start to ask ourselves some questions. And these questions, and to ask these questions, it's essential to ask the questions. Because we know that different organizations, and even on different times of the project, the things are might be more important to one organization, but less important to other organization. Or today I might value more to get to the insights, but tomorrow I should. So I ask we start to ask ourselves the questions of, do I have the team that is covering all the layers, or am I stopping at any of these layers? And I shouldn't be. So I'm not unlocking the full potential of all the assets that I have, because data is assets. But we need to work, just like oil, we need to refine oil. We need to work on the data to get to the insights. And that takes work. And how much time am I spending on each of these layers? Should I do it differently? What benefits would I get if I would dedicate my time and my team's time to other layers? Because once we start and we do these questions continuously, as we have this mindset, and we transmit that to our customers as well. And once we start to do this, our focus starts to change. And with our focus changing, then our results also start to change. And that's really important, and that I wanted to bring that to you. Thanks a lot for having me.